Everybody knows that last week the Steve Lawson story broke. And I have been conflicted a great deal by this entire thing. On the one hand, as a pastor, served as pastor in two different local churches, I know how very, very, very complicated and challenging these types of situations are. There's always more to the story than you can possibly reveal to the public. Because there are other people, there are innocent people in situations that if you talk about their role, non-sinful roles, you may be bringing great destruction to their lives, and you can't explain that. You can't talk about that. And a lot of these watchdog discernment groups out there that have never been involved in any of that, they will just come down on everybody. And automatically the elders of the congregation are assumed to be bumbling fools that don't have any idea what in the world they're doing. And these accusations are normally made by people who have no idea what they are actually doing. And so I recognize all the complexities that are there. And if Steve Lawson was a bricklayer there in Dallas, it wouldn't be anybody's business. You know, the church would need to deal with that and deal with it biblically and properly. That's not really even a question. But he wasn't a bricklayer. And so I forget which day it was. I think it was Tuesday. Al Mohler, without mentioning his name, which I'll be honest with you, only makes it all the louder. Everybody knows who you're talking about, but we won't talk about it. Al Mohler commented at the end of a chapel service at Southern Seminary about the situation. He said a lot of really good stuff and encouraging stuff. But as I was listening, at one point, he said something. I forget exactly how he phrased it. But I'm sitting here going, oh, brother, there's more coming. Because nothing else had come out. But the way he said it, I'm like, he also indicated that he had talked to some students on that Thursday and was walking on the campus and said to some students, how you doing? Well, actually not real good, and that was on Thursday. And he indicated he already knew. So the way I understood it is he had been informed on Wednesday. So my guess is that the big organizations that Lawson was involved with, that he either was on staff with or had taught for them, lectured on their campuses, whatever, published with them. He was a busy guy. So he was a regular at the Ligonier conferences. He was a regular at the Shepherd's Conference. And so I think my recollection was he headed up the D-Min program at Masters. He had some official capacity with Ligonier as well. And so he was on the road pretty constantly. And so what my guess is, I thought of another situation where I had spoken with Steve since the last program. He was at the 2017 German Shepherds Conference, which always sounds so funny. The German Shepherds Conference had nothing to do with canines. But in May of 2017, which of course was the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, there was a conference in Wittenberg that was a Shepherd's Conference. So it was the German Shepherd's Conference. And I spoke there, and Steve Lawson spoke there. And my normal recollection about that is all the stuff that happened to him on his way over. He lost his wedding ring. He lost his Mont Blanc pen. He writes all his books on yellow pads of paper and all the rest of this stuff that had happened. And my recollection that whenever I saw him, there was this one guy, I think he was a student, that had been assigned to him. And his whole job for days was to take care of Steve Lawson. Now, I was a plenary speaker too, but nobody was assigned to me. I'm not saying that as a complaint. I'm saying there's no reason to. There's no need to. And so we did do, and I had forgotten this, but I have a picture because I remember the hat that I was wearing. At one point, he and I did a Q&A session, and it was just the two of us. Well, it wasn't just two of us. There was a group of people there, obviously. But, I mean, we were the only people doing the conversation. I forget who it was who was asking the questions. I think it was one of the staff members. But I'm not sure if it was a breakout or what it was. But I did remember that. And so there have been all sorts of, almost every Q&A session at G3 that I've ever been involved with had Steve Lawson involved with it if he was there. And he's been there for the vast majority of them. So anyway, obviously they were informed before the letter went out on Thursday. Now, I'd be really concerned because I've been told, and I haven't listened to it, and I've been told it's been deleted, but he preached, I think, the Sunday before this broke. And what I've read is that there was a section in there about not judging someone based upon a hiccup in their life, but judging them on their whole life's work. That concerns me if that was the Sunday before. So the big, I think, Masters, Ligonier, G3, I think the big groups were given a heads up, which is perfectly appropriate. I mean, if you had the guy in over and over and over and over again, and no one, everybody said the same thing, didn't see this one coming. I was even surprised to find out how old he is. He's 73. I wouldn't have guessed that, to be perfectly honest with you. I would have guessed maybe late 60s. But I stink at guessing people's ages. So I gave up on it a long time ago. And don't do it with women. Just be wise. Don't even, or if you do, take 20 off just for the fun of it, because you'll, it's just wiser. Anyway, so I think there was, and my concern is then that I think that these further details that are now coming out, which who can confirm, but if they're coming from reliable sources, may have been included in that information that may explain why Mueller said what he said. And I'm sitting there going, it sounds like there's more coming. There's more to this than meets the eye. Because, in my opinion, there's a vast difference between a moment of passion with someone of your same age, one time fall, and a 5-year-long relationship that would require purposeful travel and utilization of funds. I mean that just is a completely different genre. And then the information I've seen, late 20s or 25. I've seen 25 as a date, as a specific age, late 20s in what other people have said. 25 is not late 20. So anyway, and part of me wants to go, just leave this as a church. But the other part of me is, but he didn't do this just as a member of that church. He took leadership positions in major organizations. So what do you do about that? How do you handle something like that? And so I've seen the entire spectrum expressed, from burn everything he's ever written, and delete every sermon, delete everything, just absolutely memory hold. Make sure that no one 2 years from now can discover anything about who Stephen Lawson ever was. There are people that are on that side of things. And then I read a book publisher, this morning saying, I'm not going to do that. I refuse to do that. What he said that was true is still true. And, then they'll make the argument about David and the Psalms and stuff like that. And most of us are just left sitting in the middle going, I'm not really sure what's really going on here. I'm concerned that right now anybody could put almost anything out there on the web and it might be believed, even if it doesn't have any basis in reality. That's troubling. That's really troubling, because that can be done to anybody. And there are people out there that are just, and then the anti-reformed folks that are just having themselves a grand old time. See this Calvinist, blah, 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 it's a royal mess. And now that this other information has come out from sources in the know, that has to be addressed. I just can't see how anyone could say that, well, let's just stop talking about it and let it go away. That's going to fester. That's going to encourage people to speculate further, and I just don't see how that works. Obviously, the best way, I would think, would be actually a statement from Steve Lawson himself that would, I know I'm being somewhat naive here. There's probably money involved here when you think about contracts and publishing and morals clauses and non-disclosure agreements, and people sometimes wonder why I have always been so difficult when it comes to people who wanted us to do more, be more involved in networking and stuff like that. And I just, A, I stink at it, and B, I just don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to have to sign stuff. Yeah, but that means you're not going to have as big of a platform. Yeah, well, okay. I'll live with that. We'll let the Lord take care of getting the word out to the people He wants to get the word out to. But there's probably a lot more to this than meets the eye that I could even know. But the fact of the matter is, truth is truth. And, if a Muslim says the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, that doesn't make it wrong, right? So, yeah, but how can he say one thing and then do something? Hey, you know what? Every preacher does that every Sunday, because he's that guy up there's a sinner. And if he applied perfectly everything he's saying, then wouldn't he live a perfect life? He doesn't. So you've got to find a balance. And unfortunately, situations like this, the two sides are so extreme that staying in the middle is very, very difficult to do. It's very, very difficult to do.